Jack Turner hadn't planned to leave his small Oregon rental that stormy night. But when the phone rang at 2 a.m. and a woman's voice cracked through the line, begging, "Please, just come," something inside him shifted. He glanced at Sam, sleeping in his rocket ship pajamas, clutching a frayed bear, his breathing soft and even. Jack's heart twisted, remembering all the nights Sam had woken whispering, "Do people leave because of me?" And Jack promising, "Nobody, never." So when that voice came through the static, Jack couldn't ignore it. He left a note for Mrs. Graves, the neighbor who often said Sam was a good boy, even when he lined up toy cars instead of saying hello. Jack kissed his son's forehead, stepped into the rain, and the cold hit him like a reminder that life rarely waited for perfect timing. The truck's wipers fought the downpour as he followed the GPS past dark pine roads toward Willow Lane. He remembered delivering stone there once, long ago, when life was simpler and bills didn't chase him like ghosts. The mansion appeared like a memory through the mist, stone walls heavy with ivy, the porch light flickering, casting small hope into the storm. Jack's boots sank into the mud as he climbed the steps and knocked. The door opened, and there she was. Evelyn Hale, drenched in a silk nightgown, her hair dark rivers across her pale face, her eyes wide with a fear she tried to swallow. She whispered, "You're not him?" And Jack said softly, "I got a call. Someone needed help." Evelyn's glass fell and shattered, the sound like breath breaking, and she crumpled, and Jack caught her without thinking. His arms were strong from years of warehouse shifts and carrying Sam through every storm. And in that moment, holding a stranger who felt like the echo of his own loneliness, Jack knew he would stay. Jack Turner didn't know how long he stood in that dim foyer, holding Evelyn Hale as rain dripped from her hair into the marble floor, her breath ragged while wind rattled the windows of the mansion, like a restless memory trying to break in. He guided her gently toward a tufted sofa near the cold fireplace, the portraits of stern ancestors on the walls, watching in silent judgment. Evelyn's hands trembled as she tried to gather shards of the glass she had dropped, but Jack stopped her, his voice calm, saying, "It's okay. Just sit." She looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much grief, too many nights alone, and Jack felt the weight of her loneliness pressing into the space between them. He found a blanket draped on the back of a dusty armchair, wrapping it around her shoulders, and she flinched at first, then leaned into it, as if warmth was something she had forgotten how to accept. The air smelled of old books and wood smoke that had long since faded, and Jack moved to the fireplace, finding matches and dry wood in an old copper bin, coaxing a small fire to life, its glow reaching into corners that had lived too long in darkness. Evelyn watched the flames, the light flickering in her tired eyes, her voice small as she whispered, "I thought I was calling my therapist, but I pressed the wrong number." She swallowed hard, her hands tightening around the blanket. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have come all this way." Jack shook his head softly, meeting her gaze as he said, "Sometimes the wrong number is the right call." Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry, reaching for a chipped teacup on the coffee table. But her hands shook so much that Jack steadied it, pouring out the cold tea and moving quietly into the kitchen to find the kettle, filling it, setting it on the stove. The kettle's soft hiss filled the silence, a reminder that life, even in this mansion, could still hold warmth. When he returned, Evelyn was sitting upright, her back straight as if remembering who she was, the last Hale, the keeper of this empty house. Jack handed her the steaming cup, and their fingers brushed, a spark of connection that neither spoke about, but both felt deeply. She looked into his eyes, and for a moment, the mansion felt smaller, less haunted. "I haven't let anyone in this house for 4 years, she admitted, her voice breaking like brittle glass. Jack's chest tightened, because he knew what it was to shut the world out to protect yourself from further breaking, to live behind quiet walls because silence felt safer than hope. The clock on the mantel ticked softly as the rain began to ease, tapping gently against the windows instead of pounding like before. Jack spoke of Sam, his son who still believed in dragons, and asked every night if people leave because they forget how to stay, and how Jack promised him that staying was the bravest thing you could do. Evelyn listened, her hands cupped around the tea for warmth, her eyes reflecting the glow of the fire, breathing slowly as if the warmth might fill the empty places inside her. She turned toward the window where dawn was brushing the wet garden with pale gold, turning the ivy to silver. And she looked back at Jack and asked, "Will you stay a while longer?" Jack nodded, sinking into the armchair across from her, the fire crackling softly, two strangers sharing a silence that no longer felt empty, but like the fragile beginning of something neither of them dared to name yet. Jack Turner returned to Willow Lane a few days later, Sam's small hand gripping his as they walked up the cracked path, the boy's eyes wide with the wonder only children carry, as he whispered, "Dad, it looks like a castle." Jack smiled softly, squeezing Sam's hand, feeling the weight of all the moments he could never give his son, hoping this place could be something different. Evelyn Hale opened the door before they knocked, wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater, her hair pulled back in a loose braid, gardening gloves on her hands, and a cautious light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She knelt down to Sam's level, her smile gentle, her voice warm as she said, "You must be Sam. I've heard you like dragons." Sam nodded, holding up his worn stuffed dinosaur, whispering, "This is Red. He likes gardens." Evelyn's laughter was soft, a sound that felt like the first crack of dawn in a dark room, and she stood, motioning them to follow her through the hallways that smelled of old wood and rain, into the conservatory that had been quiet for too long. Sunlight streamed through the glass roof, catching on dust motes as they drifted, and the wild tangle of ferns and ivy seemed to breathe in the light. Evelyn touched a clay pot, brushing away the dirt as she whispered, "My mother used to teach me the names of every flower here. She said gardens could heal if you let them." Sam was already moving toward a cluster of leaves, whispering names only he understood, his small fingers brushing the leaves as he said, "Spiky snake vine, sleepy leaf, dragon tail." Jack chuckled, rolling up his sleeves as Evelyn glanced at him, her eyes asking if it was okay, and he nodded, kneeling to help Sam pull away dead leaves, lifting cracked pots, sweeping dirt into a pile as if the act itself was holy. They worked in quiet harmony, Sam's giggles filling the space, Evelyn's soft hum as she wiped sweat from her forehead, Jack's quiet focus as he repaired a broken trellis. At lunch, Jack found bread and apples in the kitchen while Evelyn and Sam stayed in the conservatory. Sam showing her how to water the plants with the old copper watering can, the water glinting like tiny diamonds as it fell into the thirsty soil. They ate on the stone steps outside, Sam swinging his feet, telling Evelyn about the stars and how he wanted to be an astronaut so he could bring her a moon rock for her garden. Evelyn listened, really listened, and Jack saw how her shoulders relaxed, how she tilted her head as she asked him questions, how Sam's face lit up when she told him she would save a special spot in the garden for a moon rock flower. The sun began to set, painting the ivy in gold, and Sam turned to Evelyn, his eyes hopeful, asking, "Can I come back tomorrow to help the flowers?" Evelyn's breath caught, but she smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear as she replied, "I would like that very much, Sam." And as Jack looked at them, the fading light wrapping around the garden like a promise, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, a quiet certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. The storm returned quietly, not with thunder that split the sky, but with a heavy hush that made the air feel thick, pressing against the windows of Willow Lane as if testing the strength of the glass. Jack Turner noticed it first in the way Sam paced the guest house, his small hands flapping at his sides, his eyes darting toward the window every time the wind howled, whispering, "Dad, it sounds different here. It's too loud." Jack knelt, steadying Sam with his hands on his small shoulders, whispering, "It's just rain, buddy. It can't hurt us." But Jack could see the fear in Sam's eyes, the way his fingers twisted in the hem of his shirt. Evelyn Hale stood at the kitchen window in the main house, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold, watching the storm roll in over the hills, remembering how storms used to mean phone calls that never came, remembering the plane that never arrived, the voices that went silent. She tried to breathe, but the air caught in her chest, sharp and cold. When the rain began to pound against the roof, Sam flinched, covering his ears. His eyes squeezed shut, whispering, "It's too loud, it's too loud." Jack scooped him up, grabbing a coat as he stepped into the rain, crossing the courtyard to the main house, the storm drenching them in seconds. Evelyn opened the door, her face pale as she stepped aside, letting them in, her eyes flicking to Sam, who buried his face in Jack's neck, his small body trembling. Jack lowered Sam onto the couch near the fireplace, wrapping him in a thick blanket as Evelyn knelt beside him, her hand hovering before she rested it gently on Sam's back. "It's just a noisy sky," she whispered, her voice shaking as she said it, trying to believe it herself. A flash of lightning lit the room, followed by a crack of thunder that rattled the old windows. And Sam let out a small cry, burying himself deeper into the blanket. Evelyn's breath caught, her hand pulling back as memories crashed over her, like the waves she had tried to forget, her knees weakening as she stumbled back, pressing a hand to her mouth. Jack caught her, steadying her as she whispered, "I can't do this," tears brimming in her eyes. Jack held her gaze, his voice calm but firm. "Yes, you can. It's just a storm, Evelyn. We're here. We're safe." She looked at him, her lips trembling as the thunder rolled again, softer now, like a distant drum. Sam peeked out from under the blanket, his eyes glassy, whispering, "Miss Evelyn, it's okay. It's just the sky talking." Evelyn let out a small, broken laugh, the sound cracking open something inside her as she knelt beside Sam, pulling him into a hug, her tears falling into his hair as she whispered, "Thank you, Sam." Jack stood beside them, the fire crackling, the storm easing its grip on the world outside. And in that moment, in the quiet after the fear, they found something stronger than the storm, something that felt like the beginning of healing, wrapped in the warmth of shared breath and the promise that they would not face the storms alone anymore. The morning after the storm, Willow Lane smelled of damp earth and lilac, the garden glistening under a soft sunlight as if the rain had washed away the heaviness that had settled in the corners of the house. Jack Turner stood on the porch, watching Sam run barefoot across the wet grass, his laughter rising into the air as he tried to catch raindrops still falling from the leaves. Evelyn Hale stood near the old stone path, wearing a soft gray sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back as she watched Sam, a small smile curving her lips, a smile that reached her eyes, soft but alive. She turned toward Jack, her hands twisting together as she gathered the courage to speak, her voice careful as she said, "I've been thinking, Jack." She paused, taking a breath, her eyes lifting to meet his. "You and Sam, you spend so much time here, helping, making this place feel like it's breathing again." Jack felt a tightness in his chest, sensing where her words might be leading, his instinct to protect Sam and himself rising quietly within him. Evelyn continued, "I have this house, these empty rooms, this garden that needs hands that care about it, and you bring something alive here, Jack. I want you and Sam to move into the guest house permanently, not as charity, not because I feel sorry for you, but because I think we need each other." Jack exhaled, his eyes dropping for a moment before returning to her steady gaze. "Evelyn, I appreciate this, but I can't take handouts. I've worked too hard to show Sam that we stand on our own feet." Evelyn stepped closer, her eyes soft but firm. "It's not a handout, Jack. It's a partnership. This place needs you, and I think I do too. Not just for the garden, but because you and Sam bring something here I didn't know I was missing." Jack glanced at Sam, who was now carefully showing his stuffed dragon to a small patch of flowers, whispering to them about how rain helps them grow. And for a moment, Jack saw what this could be, a place where Sam could breathe, where he could learn to trust the world again. Jack nodded slowly, rubbing his hand over the back of his neck, saying, "If we do this, we pay for utilities, we help with maintenance, and Sam gets his own garden bed." Evelyn's smile grew soft and real as she replied, "Deal." That weekend, Jack packed boxes with Sam's books, their blankets that smelled like home, and the small wooden cars Sam refused to leave behind, loading them into the truck as the morning sun turned the gravel drive to gold. When they arrived, Evelyn was waiting, waving them in, helping Sam carry a box of his drawings into the small guest house that felt like a promise, with its ivy-wrapped chimney and warm wooden floors. That evening, they shared dinner in the small kitchen, Sam giggling as he told Evelyn that the guest house felt like a spaceship, And Jack caught Evelyn's eyes across the table, seeing the warmth there, seeing the hope. And as the stars blinked into the sky that night, they all realized that they were no longer strangers passing through storms, but three souls learning to stay, learning to build something that could last. It was a Wednesday morning when a sleek black car pulled into the gravel drive of Willow Lane, the tires crunching softly as the engine hummed, breaking the quiet rhythm of the day that had started with birdsong and the sound of Sam's laughter as he watered the new plants in the garden. Jack Turner noticed the car first, the way it did not belong among the worn wood and the soft earth of their mornings, his eyes narrowing as he set down the tools he had been using to repair a fence. Evelyn Hale stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her jeans, her breath catching as the driver's door opened and Richard Kane stepped out, wearing a crisp suit and an expression that was too polished, too familiar. Evelyn felt her past pressing in as Richard approached, his eyes scanning the garden, the greenhouse, the flowers Sam had carefully planted with names only he understood. Richard's smile was thin as he said, "Evelyn, this is quite the project you have here." Evelyn's hands curled into fists at her sides, her voice steady but soft as she replied, "It's not a project, Richard. It's a sanctuary." Richard chuckled, a sound that did not match the soft air around them, as he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You could be anywhere, Evelyn. New York, Paris. Instead, you're here, playing house with a handyman and his kid in a place falling apart." Jack moved closer, standing beside Evelyn, his presence calm but solid, the scent of rain still in his shirt from working outside. Richard's eyes flickered to Jack, dismissive as he said, "So this is the new charity case?" Evelyn's jaw tightened, her voice calm as she replied, "Don't diminish people because they live differently than you." Richard's smile faltered, and for a moment, silence stretched between them before he sighed, glancing around the property. "Be careful, Evelyn. Letting people in, letting them stay, it changes things. Don't lose yourself." With that, Richard turned and left, the car rolling down the gravel drive, leaving dust in its wake. Evelyn stood frozen for a moment, the past and the present colliding in her chest, before she felt Jack's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. She turned to him, her eyes damp but clear, whispering, "I thought I had closed that chapter." Jack nodded, his eyes meeting hers as he said, "You have, Evelyn. Letting people in isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you've done." That evening, Sam was quieter than usual, pushing his dinner around his plate before looking up, his voice small as he asked, "Dad, when people come back, do they take you away?" Jack felt the question settle in his chest like a weight, leaning forward to meet Sam's eyes as he replied, "Nobody. No one is taking us away." Later that night, Evelyn knocked softly on their door, holding the red crayon Sam had once given her voice gentle as she said, "He's scared." Jack nodded, letting her in, and they sat on the floor, Sam between them, holding the crayon as Evelyn whispered, "I used to think leaving first would hurt less, but I think staying is braver." Jack looked at her, the soft light from the lamp casting gentle shadows, and he replied, "It is. We're here and we're staying." In that quiet, as Sam leaned against them, the house felt warm, alive, and ready for whatever came next. The morning of the garden's reopening at Willow Lane arrived with golden light pouring over the dew-kissed grass, the air cool and soft as laughter floated from the garden, where Sam showed a small girl how to water the sunflowers they had planted together. Evelyn Hale stood on the porch, wearing a soft blue dress, her braid falling over her shoulder as she watched families arrive, parents holding small hands, children running toward the greenhouse with eyes wide with wonder. Jack Turner stood beside her, their shoulders brushing, as he whispered, "Look what you've built, Evelyn." She turned to him, her eyes bright, a soft smile on her lips as she replied, "We built this, Jack." Throughout the day, laughter mixed with the rustling leaves as children learned how to plant seeds, their small hands covered in dirt while parents watched, their faces softening as they saw their children safe, happy, and free. Sam wore a small leaf-shaped badge that said Junior Garden Guide as he led children through the greenhouse, explaining how rain and light help flowers grow, his voice clear and proud. Evelyn watched him, Her hand pressed gently to her chest as she whispered to Jack, "He's happy here." Jack nodded, replying, "So are we." That evening, after the last family had left and lanterns swayed softly in the warm breeze, Evelyn and Jack sat on the steps of the porch, Sam asleep inside, clutching his stuffed dragon under his chin. Evelyn turned to Jack, her voice quiet. "I used to think this house would always be a reminder of what I lost. But now it feels like it's breathing again, like it's alive." Jack reached for her hand, squeezing it gently as he said, "That's because you let it live, Evelyn. You let yourself live again." She leaned her head on his shoulder, the soft glow from the lanterns reflecting in her eyes as she whispered, "Stay forever." Jack kissed the top of her head, his voice low and sure as he replied, "Forever." And in that moment, under the soft breath of spring and the quiet song of crickets, they knew that Willow Lane was no longer just a house but a home, a sanctuary where love stayed, where hope grew, and where the promise of tomorrow was no longer something to fear, but something to welcome with open arms. If you believe in the quiet courage of second chances and the power of showing up, type "stay" in the comments and share this story with someone who needs to remember that even the wrong call at 2 a.m. can lead you home.